Modern audiences can imagine the landscape could be infinitely extended if we wished. A sense made stronger by the artist's recurring use of the square canvas.
Well, he was quite articulate about this, and he said that this format makes it possible to bathe the subject in an atmosphere of peace. Though through the square, the picture becomes part of a universal whole. So he sees the square as being able to be extended indefinitely in any direction, and it is a universal shape. It's also quite unconventional, and he probably liked that.
There's an analysis here, a defining, if you like, defining a design problem of which the square is part. And the square, of course, as one appreciates, was something which became very much, very important, whether it be to the constructivists and supremists like Malevich, or indeed to people like Braque and Picasso. The square seemed to be something with which they're working as a deliberate design problem. I certainly see Klimt as deliberately defining the square through which, or within which, the trees are then orchestrated.
Klimt's summers in the countryside enabled him to indulge his enthusiasm for landscape painting. They also gave him time with his mistress, Emilie Floge. Though they never married, Gustave and Emilie remained together for some 27 years. And in 1902, she was the subject of one of the most significant works of Klimt's career. This was the first time that Gustav Klimt combined a naturalistic depiction of human hands and face with a flat, bejeweled, decorative manner. It was not the last.
It's as if he's been mulling this over. He's got to know her very well indeed, becomes, if you like, part of her. And out comes, it's an outpouring of his realism in this sense of feeling. It is not of the tame delineation again of the external surface. It's getting at the soul and the spirit of the person. And it's, if you like, reduced down to the face and the hands as being very naturalistic, at least in the sense that you know exactly what they are, and they are the primary point of interest. You go straight to them. And yet they are contained and set within this almost amorphous, vivid pattern, colour, shape, which is not defined in the same sense. And so you're getting the soul of the person being part of its surroundings. The reality is more than the external appearance. This is what Klimt is getting at.
With this canvas, Klimt moved closer to a full-scale aestheticism in his work. The painting to be appreciated as a painting and as nothing else, and its impact upon the viewer remains stunning. The flat, highly patterned approach would dominate his later portraiture, with canvases like Fritze Reidler from 1906, and this dazzling image of Adele Bloch-Bauer, completed the following year. By this time, Klimt had virtually given up painting male portraits. He found no shortage of female sitters in wealthy Viennese society. But the artist possessed an ambiguous opinion of womanhood. Like many others at the time, he saw both the beautiful and the erotic in the feminine condition. Woman as both goddess and temptress. And it is the latter characteristic that we see in this astonishing canvas depicting the biblical figure of Judith. Judith is almost a monument to the destructive potential of female temptation.
Here we get, if you like, the archetypal femme fatale. We've got woman temptress, seductress, destroyer. It's again telling us something about Klimt and his attitude to women, or rather his reaction to women.
The model for this painting was Adele Bloch-Bauer, who was thought to be one of his mistresses, so there was an intimate connection there. And he portrays her in a state of ecstasy, which is not really so surprising since she's just cut off the head of the leader of the Assyrian army, which is what she actually wanted to do, but it could be interpreted as sexual ecstasy rather than triumph at having achieved something.
Again, it's the use of the surface decoration, it's the use of tactile, sensuous, sensual colour and form, and yet the focus on the face, the facial features. The slight tilting of the head gives a sort of dominance, a domination, which is all part and parcel of this. It's a terrific work.
Gustav Klimt lived in an age when the power of human sexuality itself was being revealed through the works of his fellow Viennese, Sigmund Freud. No one knows for certain if both men met, but there is arguably a Freudian element in his canvas. It is said that Klimt was possessed of a strong sexual drive. One wealthy young lady described how the artist followed her to Venice in a fruitless attempt to win her love. The sheer eroticism of much of Klimt's later work does suggest a Freudian attempt to triumph over personal neurosis, the so-called path back to reality. The artist's lifelong reluctance to talk about his artistic inspiration only adds to the neurotic suspicion. There is also evidence that his working days followed an almost regimented routine, and apart from his summer holidays with Emilie Floge, he hardly left Vienna at all. But in 1903, at the age of 41, Gustav Klimt did venture further afield when he travelled to Italy on 2 occasions. He was not the first to make such a journey. For centuries, artists from Northern and Central Europe had made an Italian trip to see for themselves the greatest artistic achievements of antiquity and the Renaissance. But Klimt's journeys south had a very different purpose. His destination was not Rome, Florence or Venice, but the city of Ravenna, to see the finest achievements in an art form from outside the Western tradition, mosaic. It was the beginning of the artist's so-called golden period.
Klimt went to Ravenna in 1903 and he saw the Basilica of San Vitale, which is full of the most amazing mosaics. And of course the mosaics are made up of small stones and gold and reflect the light in a particular way, which he was completely entranced by, and it was this that he brought back with him from Ravenna. His interest in gold is to do with his father being a goldsmith and the fact that it's a reflective metallic surface which is exciting and contrasts with paint or with semi-precious stones very nicely. And it gives a sense of luxury, of course, which is something that his Viennese clients were particularly interested in.
During the middle years of the 20th century's first decade, the artist's use of gold could be little short of overwhelming. Increasingly, a greater degree of abstraction revealed itself in golden period paintings like Water Serpents from 1907. With this picture, the artist has turned his erotic attentions to the business of lesbian love, as the influence of mosaic patterning can be seen all around the ecstatic couple. The kiss provided further ammunition for his critics seeking a pornographic inspiration behind Klimt's work. But with the most famous painting of the artist's career, it is difficult not to appreciate the artist's achievement in purely artistic terms. This 1908 image features the artist's trademark love of gold, his use of mosaic decoration, his fascination with beauty, the erotic and the act of the embrace. The title is simply The Kiss, and it is, for many, the greatest achievement of Gustav Klimt's career.